Greetings. This is for a, a bit of explanation about a old Excel journal tool that I put together way back when, 2015 or something, and I've dusted it off and tried to update it and make it applicable to things that are discussed and principles that we are using in the T-Lab to try to help people who may not have um, all the tools available to them to capture the data, their trade data, and accurately uh, determine if they have a statistically significant edge, profit factor, etc., or expectancy on specific setups with regard to uh, open type, context, setup type, and then finally exit name, and in this case, stop, target one, target two, and trailing stop. And you can do that by account and whatever else. So this is, first of all, a huge disclaimer. I am not a Power Excel person at all. I do database stuff, but with other tools, and so I struggle. It took me a long time to try to get to the bottom of some of the formulas and stuff to make this work. The problem that I was dealing with was the filtered data. So many aspects of Excel that at least that I was familiar with, sum total sub and all that kind of thing, they don't really apply to, they aren't on filtered data. They will always look at the entire data set. On the original tool, I had some Excel tables with graphs, but I discovered quickly when I started to dust this thing off for the T-Lab here that Excel pivot tables do not update on filtered table data at all. You have to reconfigure the pivot table. Well, that's about as handy as two left feet, right? So that was didn't work at all because my theory of using this thing is to top down identification of setups which have specific criteria and rules and a positive edge. As Tom talks about so often. So there's the open types here. Well, I guess let's have a little tour. These are the filters for the applicable things that we talk about often in the T-Lab. Open type, context. These are the setups as pretty much as I know about them from Tom, and they're some of my own. These are error breakout, error execution, error FOMO, error didn't trade your plan. So I've got those in there. And then this is a EV POC stat, IB30, IB60, IB continuation, IB failure. They should be all familiar to everybody. Then the way these work is there are, this is all built over an Excel data table. Here's the open position data table, which powers the drop down or the filter here. Same for context, same for strategy, same for setups, exit name, and accounts. Then there's day types and some old stuff from the from the market profile days, an open type, and a risk account thing, which is may or may not be interesting to some people. You put in all your account data over here and what kind of trade stuff and lots and whatnot ticks you're going to risk, and it'll give you the burn down. It'll calculate and graph the burn down of consistent losers to bring your account to a margin call. That's an old one, and who the hell knows if it's pertinent or not, but I figured I'd leave it on there. So uh, I think that's all self-explanatory, right? You got the filters over here, and you got the tables that propagate or the tables upon which these filters are based. Simple. These are just sanity check data items, which is where the whole thing started once upon a time. This is just self-explanatory. There's the positions, the trades, all, and filtered. Same way with ticks, expectancy, win rate, loss rate, maximum, adverse, and favorable excursion. This this is a thing that doesn't really work anymore, and it's just it's supposed to calculate the efficiency of your exit compared to how far the data moved, or how far. This would be a sort of a thing where you would have unrealized profit, and so I left it on there anyway. Never mind. This is percent efficiency, which is a not particularly important metric, but expectancy, win rate, and these others. I'll show you. This is ticks. This is dollars. This is just a tick overview. Total win, ones, loss, profit factor, and this extra cross check here is just to make sure these numbers total up, and it's a sanity check for me. These are a count of wins and losses, average lot size, and traded in max, average, and minimum. uh, Losses and same thing, and consecutive. This is one of the ones where I'm not a good Excel guy. These consecutive. This is the largest string of consecutive wins in a row. In other words, win rate, a winning streak. The problem is, even with this filter, which I thought I had figured out, doesn't function properly on the filters, because you'll notice that these numbers don't change, and this is average time in the market for wins and losses. So if you figure that out, let me know how to do it. I'd appreciate it. But I figured rather than hold this thing up and keep, messing with it, which it's been like 2 months now since I first said I'd post it, I figured the hell with it. This is a function for, because this whole thing started, and this data actually is around some, I often will take an Excel, a top strip combine, use that because it's, $40 and they give you the data and you can trade, sim, and test whatever. Once, couple months ago, I wanted to see whether this inner circle trader fair value gap stuff worked, and that didn't plan out at all. So anyway, this started, and you can add this. This 240 tick line here is this red target line. If you want to, if you're doing a funded account or you're not, who cares? But if this target line is kind of interesting, you can put that in there. And for example, we'll just remove it, and there we go. And if you want to put it back in there at 240 ticks or 200 ticks, whatever it is, it gives you a profit target. If you're looking at this for months or you want to get somewhere or whatever else it is, this was where the funded line on a 50,000 K account is $3,000, or which is trading the ES at 4 ticks per point and $12 a tick, 12 and a half a tick. It's that many ticks to get to a funding. So I left it there. These should be pretty self-explanatory. Running, profit and loss, and ticks. Everything I do is in ticks because I'm a firm believer in not trading your P&L. You'll notice if you ever see any of my screen snaps or whatever else, or stream or something, that there's no profit anywhere to be seen. I wish that Bookmap would give those figures in ticks. Then I would have them working on Bookmap, but they don't. So that's why this is all ticks. Best I can do. Wins and loss percentages, shorts to longs, average win, average loss, total losses, total wins. Now this is a real interesting one here, as far as I'm concerned. If you, for all of the options, unfiltered, all open types, all context, and all setups for this account, the best winning setup that I've captured on this set of data is for the mean reversion rotational, which is a term I came up with, as opposed to mean reversion trend. 200 ticks. I cannot show, this is another one. If you can help me, great. I can't get Excel, these are histograms. I can't get them to plot a histogram on negative numbers. Uh, I can show them to you in the data sets, real simple. But so anyway, there's 10 ticks here of loss on that thing. So this is net. So mean reversion rotational, there's net 190 ticks on on all open types and all contexts. Now, how many are there in higher in range? So this is how you use the data. This is how I use the tool. There you go. Now, there's the same thing. This is what higher in range ticks P&L looks like. This is the number of wins and losses, shorts and longs, average loss, average gain, and these are because of these larger scales. This doesn't show up very good, but anyway, this is average wins and losses totals. Again, these are accurate for where they fit in the trade database from the first one that you got to the last one. And these are losses, and this is the distribution of wins and losses. Same way here. This shows them. I forgot to mention. This shows the totals by exit type. This is T1, T2, and trailing stop. And then this would be the loss rate, win rate, and expectancy for just higher in range, not picking a strategy, but still you notice that mean reversion rotational is still the winner. So if we go to mean reversion rotational over here, we can figure out what we really have going on. And I think this is the way you narrow it down to determine if you have an edge or not. Well, pretty clearly you do. These are the wins. These are the losses. That's your P&L graph or your chart. There's a percent wins and losses, longs to shorts, total wins, total losses, expectancies, or I mean, average wins and losses. And again, this is because we have decided on one setup, obviously there's only one bar. So there's 100 and whatever that says, 137 minus 10 is 127. So our net profit on mean reversion rotational and a higher in range setup, rotational obviously because these are all available, but if you know how these work, if it's available in the data set for the filters you have, then they'll be dark like that. So that's an Excel thing. I guess everybody knows that probably. This is the distribution for this setup by exit, by T1, T2, and trailing stop. So we got 68 ticks on T1, only 32 more on T2, and we picked up 37 on trailing a stop up for trade management kind of. There's a 10 tick expectancy, win rate's 92%. And if you want to kind of cross check things, these numbers up here are maybe easier depending on how you're driven. Win rate, loss rate. And this is the formula for expectancy, and these are the calculations for the average winner size, and this is the calculation for that one, and this is then the two of those added together. So there's your expectancy, and just depending on, I always want to cross check stuff in my own mind, make sure I've got something working properly. This is this is some more sanitary sanity data here. This is irrelevant. I'll take that off. I forgot to delete that. These are just what they say they are. Days available, days traded, days traded, percent of the period. These are how many were taken in stock, T1, T2, T3, percent. The blues are unfiltered. The browns indicates filtered data. These things are important. So if you delete these, you'll break everything. Some of these these numbers pull from the data table, and then some of the things above are based on them. But it's just real easy for me to look and see, okay, there was 12 wins, it was 137 average, and the average win is 11.477. So that's pretty much what it says over here, right? And that's kind of a good check sanity thing. that's what I do. So that's the dashboard, and it's real simple. What we'll do now is I'll show you how I bring the data into the dashboard, and you can do the same thing if you're using Rhythmic, or you can enter it yourself. But let's go with that. So first of all, if you're using Rhythmic, you can set it up like this. To export a position, you use the positions. You can set it up on a schedule to export the data that you want and the schedule you want, which days and at what time you want that to happen. And it'll automatically upload to wherever you tell it to go, this location right here. It'll automatically upload that to that place every time you tell it to. And in my case, I have it do it Monday through Friday after the close, after 1600. This is, would say 1605. If you could see the whole thing on this screen now. So that's something you need to set up on Rhythmic. And then after that is done, here's what it looks like. Now this is as I said, this account isn't anymore, so I'm not too worried about it being shown. But it probably is stupid. I should have deleted that. But anyway, it's there. So what are you going to do? This is what the upload would look like, and it'll update these every day of the week uh, with the trades. So here's day before or whatever day that was. Here's the 31st, and here's a trade that I happened to do last Friday. And so I thought this would be a good one to add to this data set over here to show you how it works and show you how the graphing goes. So all you got to do is select this. Oops, sorry about that. Copy it. Go back to your data table. Go to Rhythmic Data Entry Sheet. Paste it. Go to View. Macros. Load RT data. I'll remove this ticks thing before I push this up to Google Sheets and run it. It's going to ask you for a tick value, and it's $12.50 a tick. And then it's going to work its magic in the background, and when it's done, it'll tell you so, and that data will be deleted off of this sheet. So right now, it's not a very streamlined code because it had to do a lot of relative field stuff because of the way that I had the data exported in these fields and the order of them. Now that's over with, okay? So we go back to the data table, and we see that we have two new rows at the bottom of our data table. Okay, from our drop downs now, we know that Friday was lower in range, right? So we put those in. We know that it was that was the instrument. This is the account. It was rotational and it was risk neutral. Now these are all drop downs, but let me just show you that they are. Okay, you can. I don't have the instrument as a drop down. You can do that yourself, I guess. So paste them down, and there you go. Now these are definitely. So this was a VPOC migration, which I call migrating VPOC. That's the same flag as I have on my cloud notes. You put in the setup type, and it was a T1 and a T2. And you know that these are correct because when it's doing the ingest from that from this sheet, from the Rhythmic upload to this sheet, it automatically, and then if we go from this sheet to the data table, it automatically sequences these by time so that the first T1 would be your first one out, obviously, just so that you got the right amount of numbers or the right values with the right exit type. I think that's kind of important. And there you see it's 1214. Now this is a part that's a little bit goofy. I don't know what to do with. Maybe you don't care about maximum favorable and adverse expectancy, but what I do, and you'll notice here, what I do is I put the lowest one and the other one. Now I happen to know that this was 8 ticks adverse and 47 ticks favorable, right? Now all of this stuff and all of these fields are driven by formula, and they automatically update when when the new data comes into the table. So that's all those are the only things that you have to update. The open position, make sure that you got the instrument, the account, the context and strategy, then the setup, exit type, and if you want to continue using MA, and you could maybe set that up, but I don't get it pushed for. It isn't pushed from Rhythmic, or I haven't figured out how to do it anyway. So that's that. Obviously, save it, and you go back to the sheet, and there you are. And there was that piece of data that just went in there, and we can get rid of the filter there, and you can get rid of this over here. That trade wasn't showing because it wasn't lower in range, right? Now we've got them all in there. So if you look at lower in range, I'm not sure exactly why this squiggly looking thing is over there, but anyway, uh, and there's the trade that we're talking about, and there is the VPOC migration. Obviously, in the lower in range filter that we have so far, it's the most profitable with zero. Doesn't look right. Oh wait, yeah, okay. So and the reason that there are losses here is because there are. You see how these are darker than this one? That means those are also selected. So there are some VWAP to VPOC trades that were losers, but you'll notice that the VPOC migration is not a loser, and then the ticks are the same, and we can verify that by going like that. And now if it doesn't make a liar out of me, there we are. It's only 2 trades, but hey, it's 100%. So now if you wanted to know that in the lower in range open type, and because of that, rotational. That's the only data that we have in there yet. You see how much darker it is. Then you'd have to get a lot more trades to make this a statistically significant data set on this specific setup to know that in a lower in range rotational, a lower in range open rotational context, that the VPOC migration, in order to have a meaningful statistics for a positive edge, I mean, looks great right now, but who knows? It's only 2 instances. So they're typically people consider about 50 to be, statistically significant. So you need to capture a bunch more trades with this specific setup. And then these are you can see how many, it's already got it, the T1s and the T2s profit. You can see what specific there. Uh, if you wanted to filter down that far, you could do that. And one thing about the setups that might be worth doing, we're talking about here. These are the context and rules around the setups as I understand them. And so you can fill these out yourself. You can see that this started a long time ago, and I had different things I was tracking. This is a local that I worked with Market Profile, one of the guys I started with. So started out Market Profile with JP, who's now dead, but anyway, he was a local. Tom probably knows him. So there you are. So that you can change these to your statistics so that you know what the setup description and the criteria are for each one of your setups. So this can figure into your plan. Uh, that's, of course, you can add to any of these. Oh, on the account story, I've got zero. The demo account is zero, and you can put your own account name, call it whatever you want, number whatever you want, and call it sim or live or whatever you want. And then my suggestion would be that do just as we have and add some data of your own. You see how it's filtered down to only those two instances of the VPOC migration, right? So add the data so that you get a substantial amount of your own data. I would recommend that you definitely get enough data in there to cover the opening types and the setups that you care about, and then just use this filter and filter off zero, because I noticed that when I deleted a bunch of data from my journal that I normally use, this is a copy that I've made for the T-Lab with just some sanitized data, that when I copied and moved a bunch of the rows out, I got a lot of pound refs errors because some of the formula I didn't like having tables above or below deleted. So I would just, caution about that. But add your own account, and then you can just filter for your own account, and this will all function with just your data. So I think that does it. And if you've listening to this, you've found everything on Google Docs, which is where I'm going to put it. And best of luck if you come up with some way to have these arrays filter. That'd be great. I'd love to know that. And best of luck. I hope it helps. And if not, I'm sure you're familiar with the delete key. So trade safe, and remember that the object, the main job of every trader is to preserve your account and be able to trade tomorrow. Case closed. Risk management, and I think the risk neutral setup that Tom uses, and uh, I do too. That he puts forward in the site there in packages of two is fantastic. Anyway, best of luck, and that's the end of that. And I'll put both of these up hopefully